Valkyrie, Heimdall, The Karate Kid, Hermione Granger, Doctor Who, Spider-Man, Captain America, Car the Snake, The Human Torch, and The Little Mermaid. These famous characters all have something in common. In a bid to access more diversity on our screens, stages, and in our books and comics, all these characters have either been changed, replaced, or rebooted to greater represent the fans that follow them. With more diversity comes better representation, but is there a point when representation fails to be such, and is tokenism? Is tokenism really a thing, or is it a way to denounce better representation? All this and more in this video as I open up a discussion on the topic of representation versus tokenism. Welcome to the newly rebranded Hakuna MaChatter, the diversity in film and TV discussion channel. Here for you to better understand the importance of diversity in film and TV. Representation is an incredibly hot topic at the moment, and the examples I gave at the beginning of this video were of race and cisgender, with one example of sexual orientation. However, it extends much further than these three, and other examples of underrepresented groups include transgender or transsexual, physical or learning disabilities, and mental health issues, to name a few. I'll be focusing predominantly on race because obviously. With everything we consume in pop culture and the arts, a few things always stay consistent. Number one, we want to be entertained. I, for one, don't watch a film or TV show to sit there being bored out of my mind. I want to be engaged, I want to laugh, to cry, to scream out in joy when good triumphs over evil. Number two, we all want to share in the human experience. We are, after all human. We feel the same emotions. We all strive to live lives of love and comfort. We all need water to stay hydrated. We are all connected. And number three, we all want to see ourselves in the stories we read and watch. So why can't we? In 2019, a report published by Social Sciences at UCLA on Hollywood Diversity showed that people of colour remained underrepresented on every industry of employment front in 2016 to 2017. Relative to their white counterparts across the top 200 theatrical film releases of 2017, people of colour were 2-to-1 among film leads, 3-to-1 among film directors, and 5-to-1 among film writers. For women, relative to their male counterparts, they were less than 2-to-1 among film leads and 4-to-1 among film directors and writers. The numbers here in the UK between 2006 and 2016 show greater disparity for black actors. On the BFI website, a report that sampled 1,172 UK-made films showed that 59% of them did not feature a single black actor in any named character role at all. And out of 13 film genres, the top 3 film genres that omitted black actors the most were biopic, war, and historical/period drama. Whereas the 3 genres that featured black actors the most were fantasy, science fiction, and at number 1, crime. And just to really stick that final nail into the coffin, films featuring casts with majority black actors tended to revolve around stereotypical subjects, including slavery, civil rights, crime, and apartheid. It's all a bit doom and gloom when you actually look at the numbers, isn't it? That is until, of course, you look at the box office numbers. In UCLA's Hollywood Diversity report in 2017, the median global box office for films with casts of 31% to 40% minority, their word not mine, stood at $169.8 million. Whereas films with casts and less than 11% minority had the lowest median global box office of that year. And in terms of median return on investment, casts that were majority minority in 2017 peaked, closely followed by casts that were 41% to 50%, whereas casts that were less than 11% minority took the lowest median return on investment. Furthermore, minorities accounted for more than half of the ticket sales for 5 of the top 10 films in 2017. Now, I looked up what the top 10 films in 2017 were, and it was really kind of annoying because Depending as to which website you went to, you got a different top 10. However, there were consistencies, and I found 5 films that had more diverse casts that probably accounted for those higher ticket sales within minorities. These films being Star Wars The Last Jedi, Fate of the Furious, Jumanji Welcome to the Jungle, Wonder Woman, and Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. All in all, what this data shows is that it is no wonder our characters in pop culture are changing when being adapted or injected with a new lease of life. Firstly, there is already heavy underrepresentation, leaving room for the changes to happen. Secondly, the box office year on year shows favour to more diverse cast, which can be seen in the UCLA report, link in the description down below, showing that there is demand for more and better representation. There is, however, another side to this coin. With the increase in better representation comes the dreaded tokenism, defined as this: the practice of making only a perfunctory or symbolic effort to do a particular thing, especially by recruiting a small number of people from underrepresented groups in order to give the appearance of sexual or racial equality within a workforce. With the increased earnings for films at the box office with more diverse cast, there is a concern that actors will only be cast based on the colour of their skin or their gender, as a symbolic gesture there to sell tickets and tick a box. This kind of discourse hit peak when it was announced that Halle Bailey was to play Ariel in Disney's remake of The Little Mermaid. Ariel, in Disney's original cartoon released in 1989, was drawn as white, based off of the fairy tale written by Danish writer Hans Christian Andersen, which was published in 1837. In that story, The Little Mermaid is described as white. However, at one point in that book, she is also described to have skin as clear and delicate as a rose leaf. This is the colour of a rose leaf. Of course, for people in this century, their main point of reference is Disney's 1989 cartoon, a cartoon that was originally released over 30 years ago now, and Disney at no point drew Ariel to be her original green. The problem people found was that instead of creating a new princess of an ethnic background akin to Tiana or Moana, a white ginger princess was changed, equating it to basic tokenism and not bringing proper representation for black people. In fact, there was a time that I was convinced by a black YouTuber that this was nothing but an empty handout by Disney to show that the underrepresented are represented, i.e. tokenism. However, I now believe that both myself and this YouTuber were wrong. For me, tokenism has been warped into a sign of anger to show distaste when a character has been cast as black, Asian or Hispanic when they were originally depicted as white. The biggest complaint being, instead of casting for diversity's sake, why not just cast the actor best suited for the job? I have to ask, who do you picture when you say cast the actor best suited for the job? In fact, who do you picture as best suited for any job when you feel a minority person or a woman has been given the job based on what they look like? What does the person you picture look like, and why do they deserve the job more than anyone else? These are serious questions, with even more serious answers. The changing of a character from white to another race is not tokenism, it is representation. To assume it is tokenism is to assume that white is the default. Yes, the original depiction of that character may have been white, but they are a fictional character reflecting the time they were created. We now live in a time where it is difficult to represent people who are not white as minorities because, well, we're not. And the demand for more diversity in our media is increasing relentlessly. And so when characters from books, comics or cartoons are cast as black, Asian, mixed race, Hispanic, Native American, Aboriginal, whatever, the history and story of that character isn't changing. Our world is, and we as creatives acknowledge and want to represent that. True tokenism can be found in the films 1917 and Disney's live-action Aladdin. Both tokenism, both wrong, but for different reasons. In 1917, there is a Sikh soldier, Sepoy Jandala, played by Nabhan Rizwan. Sikh soldiers played a prominent role in the First World War. Over 1 million fought, of which 74,187 died. And here in the film 1917, released in the year 2020, only 0.00001 of them are represented. If we go back to our earlier definition of tokenism, we can clearly see what is going on here. Now, of course, there may be many Sikh people who are happy to finally see a nod to the troops that gave up their lives in the First World War. It may be tokenism and a heavy underrepresentation, but it is at the very least a minor step in the right direction. My example from Aladdin, however, is quite the contrary. The inclusion of Billy Magnuson's Prince Anders as the token white guy. Well, let me explain. The original purpose of a rival prince for the affections of Jasmine from Aladdin was set in place to show that Jasmine has choice over who she marries and it isn't a decision made by her father. However, in this updated version, Jasmine has grown beyond who she chooses to marry to holding ambitions only to be sultan. The inclusion of Prince Anders, a white prince, depicts a lack of trust in the understanding that Princess Jasmine, not a white prince, can go out into the world and rule by herself. He is brought in to marry with Jasmine so that he can rule and both Jasmine and Agrabah will be safe. A problematic equation even if Prince Anders was not white. Now before you question this, know that this is how I, a mixed race person, perceived Prince Anders. I did not see him as some lovable clown, there to show that the Sultan is wasting his time and Princess Jasmine is the only true successor as Sultan. I saw him as the white saviour, there to solve all the problems through the perceived privilege of marriage. I've grown up having to watch and read these stories all my life, and finally in a mainstream film with African, Asian and black leads, I was ready for it to focus fully on them. Unfortunately, I and many others will have to wait a little while longer. Hey, if you like this video, make sure you check out these other great videos here and make sure you subscribe here for future content. There's a new lease of life on this channel and I can't wait for you to see what is on the horizon. Hakuna MaChatter.